Hi guys, so right now I'm driving the new 2019 Proton Persona facelift. Now earlier on I published a video of this car's walk around side by side with my own car, a 2016 Proton Persona pre-facelift. That car was well, basically the first batch of this current second generation Persona. Alright, we bought that car in December 2016, drove it. It's now been with us for 2.5 years, clocked about 24,000 kilometers on the odometer. Alright, so in comparison, this car here is brand new, fresh off the oven, 800 kilometers, less than 800 kilometers on the clock, so very fresh. Alright, and so this video I'm going to talk about some of the Proton's claim improvements that they have implemented into this car, translated into the driving experience versus the original one that I have at home. Okay, now of course the wear and tear factor has to be taken into account for some of my feedback, but here are some of the initial observations that I made. Now, first up, the first thing that was immediately obvious is that this car just feels smoother and more refined than the one I have. I mean, the Proton claimed to have made improvements, tweaks to the engine and transmission software, and some of these improvements, these software improvements can be retroactively updated into existing versions of the Iris and Persona. So guys, next time, if you are owners of the old Iris and Persona, when the next time you send your car in for service, do talk to the service center, ask them about software updates, alright, to your ECU and transmission control unit. So some of these refinements that I'm feeling here, owners of existing cars can enjoy them as well. Okay, now simply put, the transmission, alright, after the updates, the engine and transmission just somehow feels more responsive. Okay, the car feels more eager on acceleration, and and it's just the what you call it, stop go behavior, okay, just seems to feel a bit smoother as well. So, and that's positive. Okay, but I think the most significant change is how this car just seems to feel more tightly screwed together, particularly when I take it over bumps, patches of roads, that kind of rough surfaces. The suspension still has roughly the same level of pliancy, but it is the secondary vibrations and scuttles that seem to be reduced significantly over my car. It feels like Proton has they have specified, they have made all the rubber bushes, the mountings, the dampers, the bump stops, all that. It seems that they've changed all that to use materials that are like one grade higher than before. So yes, the car's dynamic behavior seems unchanged, but it feels like there are less residual harshnesses, if you like, okay, when you go over rough surfaces. That is perhaps the most notable. But my wife noticed this when we are driving, like on highway, for instance. There seems to be an increase in noise levels, and upon listening closely, I attribute this to the tires, because the mechanical refinement of this car, the powertrain noises, transmission noises have reduced. So wind noise could not have changed that much, so it boils down to the tires. And I think, as I've pointed out in an earlier video before, my Persona, after 1 year of ownership, we changed the original Silverstone tires to a set of Michelin PS3s that not only improve the car's wet and dry grip, but also lowered noise levels and generally resulted in a more comfortable and plusher ride. So here's a tip: those of you guys who are thinking of buying one of these, if you have the budget for a tire upgrade, that really would be a worthwhile investment, because that really makes a noticeable difference in the car's behavior, all right, and overall refinement. That's something that I highly recommend. In fact, even if you want to start off by using the factory tires, that's fine, but be prepared for a tire change pretty early on. I'd say after a year or 10,000 kilometers on the clock, just be prepared to change new set of tires. Okay. So what else is improved? One more thing, I feel the brakes seem to be slightly easier to modulate, more linear in its response. The steering wheel, I appreciate that they have improved the materials used on the steering wheel. It's now a softer to the touch, more pleasant to the touch, right? Yeah, and the thing is that the steering wheel is the most often touched item in the whole cabin, so I appreciate that they now specify a more pleasant feeling material to wrap the steering with. Okay, it's not like a very plush type of leather, but there's a nice and soft feel to it. Big news with this, of course, is the addition of the high proton infotainment system, right? Or officially known as GKUI. I can't remember what GKUI stands for, but well, we all know this as high proton, and well, the system is off right now in the car, but the few times I tried it, the response is quite inconsistent. Sometimes it understands my commands pretty well, but others the same, would you believe it, the same set of instructions in different places different settings can yield different responses. So I tried this couple of commands really. I told the thing, high proton, I'm feeling sick. There were times that it whipped out a list of hospitals and clinics, right, which I thought was very smart. Then there were a couple of other occasions that it didn't get what I was saying. Similarly, when I said I needed to refuel, there were a couple of occasions where it got what I was saying and listed down a few petrol stations near where I am. Then when I say when I'm hungry, they listed down a few nearby restaurants, but also there was on one occasion, which there was the time when I recorded, it actually listed down location of nearby animal vets. So I don't know what this thing is trying to tell me, but hey, well, there you go. What else? But still, the system itself is definitely an upgrade from the one that I have in my car, because at least this is a fast responding system, boots up quickly. Same can't be said of the one I have at home, right? The one I have at home, sometimes a little slow in its response. Sometimes it's prone to hang, to crashing, and it sometimes takes more than a minute upon startup to boot up. So yeah, not a very stable OS in the infotainment system of those early batch Persona and Iris. All right, some of the changes in the instrument cluster, the improved tactile feel of the switches, all of these contribute to a more pleasant driving sensation. In fact, the overall feel of this car is pretty much the same as the one I have at home. It's just that it feels like, they have refined, all the various small details, made little small improvements here and there, just to make this car feel better, in all the little areas. Largely feels the same to drive, just that it has all these little tiny bits of improvements here, there, everywhere, that make it feel as a better car overall. All right, and of course, now that with this 2019 update, they have also dropped the price. It certainly makes this Persona a more attractive and more compelling option for any of you guys shopping for a new car with a budget of 60,000 ringgit or below.